Now, your outlet does a countdown every summer where you rank the team's prospect pool. And this year, Ottawa was 25th. Before we get into the team and where you see certain players there, the day before you put out a top 100 prospects where Carter Yakemchuk was 36th. We know the Senators have traded first-round picks in back-to-back years before this one. So it's not a surprise to us that there's only one player on this list. But the first sentence says, you could argue he could be 20 spots higher. So why was Yakemchuk settled at 36 on your list?
Yeah, you absolutely could. Honestly, it's just a matter of balancing upside and the certainty of his projection and market value, and personal preference. Like, you try to balance all of those factors when you make the list. So based on upside, he could be this kind of number one defenseman who is an elite power play player, and that would push him 20 spots up the list and even higher, honestly. But there are more question marks with him than other defensemen that were in the 2024 draft and maybe that were around him on that list. So those question marks drag them down a bit, and we tend to balance, like I said, upside uncertainty, and that the result of that equation landed him somewhere in that spot. So he could be higher based on upside, but other things push him down a bit.
Well, that leads to my first question, David. Were you surprised when the Ottawa Senators went with Carter Yakemchuk? Because Ross and I, when this pick was coming up, Ross was a Zeev Bouillon guy. I was a Zane Perek guy. And we looked at each other and we embraced and we said, we're getting one of our guys. And we had a moment where we're like, even if it's your guy, if it's my guy, we're going to be happy. Even if it's Sam Dickinson, we are getting a player that we have really polished and we really like here. And this is going to be great. And then Carter Yakemchuk was selected and we kind of went okay. We like Yakemchuk. We see the potential. We like the physicality. We like the goal scoring, right shot defenseman with size. This is still all good. But when they made that pick, was it for you, classic Ottawa pick here and you're not surprised? Or were you man, they left a lot on the table here?
No, I didn't say that, but I think it is a classic Ottawa pick because they tend to value size, looking at their prospect pool and physicality, and Yakemchuk has that. So you should be excited about this pick because out of all of those defensemen, he's the most exciting. It's just that he has the most question marks, but in terms of pure fun, watching him develop, it's going to be really interesting for you, just following him next season, the highlights and all of this. So he needs to round out his game, but I think he is a typical Ottawa Senator. He's going to fit well inside the team. They have a need for right-shot defensemen. So I think it was always going to be a right-shot defenseman. And Zane Perek, he's not he's a bit different from what they usually draft. So I was not surprised. We had him lower on our list for the same reason I explained for the top 100 list. There is more question marks, so he's a bit lower. But in terms of upside, he has that first line potential and first power play, and it's just that he needs to improve his rush capping, his defensive awareness, and his footwork in certain aspects. So we always talk too much about skating at Elite Prospects, but in general, it's the speed is really fine going in the zone. It's good even, but agility and all this, if he can develop his defensive footwork and become more aware, and that's going to help him develop a lot and earn the minutes to really make his offensive skills shine. So he's an exciting prospect. It's just that more question mark again.
And you look at him play and the numbers jump out: 30 goals, 120 penalty minutes. Playing on a Calgary Hitmen was in a part of their cycle where they weren't as competitive. So he was tasked with being that do everything, go out every other shift, and dangle everyone, like the video that you made during the lead up to the draft, which we'll put the link into, because some of those highlights, he's doing a spinorama through two defenders. Some of the moves are amazing for a 5'10" player, let alone a 6'3" defenseman. So I'm really interested to see his season. Do you think that his best development path is in Calgary, or would you like to see him? We've been hammering the table. Hey, if it's not working, go to Medicine Hat, go to somewhere that they're building for a cup run. Do you think that would help place him better, where he doesn't feel like he's trying to do absolutely everything out there, and maybe in that way hurting his defensive game?
Yeah, I'm thinking of Pavel Mintyukov of Anaheim. He was mostly an offensive defenseman in his draft year, and then he was traded to another team. I don't remember the team.
Ottawa. It was Ottawa.
Oh, yeah,
67.
Yeah.
And he, oh yeah, that's true. And he learned to play a completely different style that prepared him much better for the NHL. And he showed he could adapt his game and really fit a different kind of system. And that's really good for prospects because you don't want them to become set in their ways and just play hero hockey all the time.
Yep.
So if he can learn another system, other tactics, it's going to help him become more diverse and just help his development in general. So I think you're absolutely right. I would like a trade. It's just that he has so much value for that team. I'm not sure it's going to happen. And to that point, like playing in a system like this where you can, I'm also thinking of Evan Bouchard in this draft here, who's allowed to do everything on the ice because he was the main part of quarterback. He was the main guy who generated offense. He ended up fine anyway, but he's still playing that kind of same style in the NHL that he found a perfect fit for it. So we have these two players who at different junior pathways. Not that it would have turned out differently if they didn't get traded or anything, but like you can see how the defensemen can get really set in how they play and how their development can be influenced by a trade too.
Interesting that you mentioned Bouchard because Yakemchuk said he's an Oilers fan growing up and he watched a lot of Evan Bouchard. So you can kind of see that in his game. Last question for me on Yakemchuk, and then we'll get into the prospect pool in general. Is he, to you, a lock for Team Canada at the World Juniors, or is it still up for debate of whether he's going to be? Because a lot of people in Ottawa, of course, very excited. We're hosting it. We need to have a Sens prospect on Team Canada.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's always a game of reputation and all this with Team Canada. Honestly, it's sometimes hard to understand their selection. It could be like he has the physical nature that they like. He has the size too. So there are many elements in his game that they like. Maybe if they have too many offensive defensemen in the team, they might not select him. But I think he should be in there, honestly. And mostly because I want to watch him on that stage. It's personal more than anything else because it's going to make the game really interesting. And I want to see him in a different kind of setting, just like you said. And it's some with different teammates and different system. How does he perform? Can he adapt his game? If he answers those questions this year, he might be way higher on our top 100 next year. So that should make you happy.